Marty, it's time for our random thought segment where we just give our thoughts on any sport, any topic, whatever it is around the world in Delaware, whatever. I'm going to start. I'll start with mine, and then I'll let you close out the show. Mine has to do with the weather. This week with Ophelia, and Ophelia is still with us on Sunday, but it's not nearly as bad as it was, at least not yet, yesterday. And we had, I think it was ended up being 5 games that were played yesterday, starting with Newark Archmere. And I think the Woodbridge Delmar game was the last game to finish yesterday afternoon, maybe the Howard game, I'm not sure. I was told by several people the reason those games were played, one of the primary reasons is because the DIAA does not want teams playing on Sunday unless it's a very, very extreme circumstance. It may even be a rule that they can't. I don't know the answer to that question, and I will find out. I came up with this random thought yesterday, and I didn't want to bother anybody from the DIAA for the answer to that question. Monday, Yom Kippur. So that means basically if you're not playing Saturday, you're not playing Sunday, you can't play Monday, which you shouldn't. It's like the Christians' Christmas Day, and you wouldn't be playing on Christmas Day. Then it's Tuesday, and then you get real close to your game next week. And for safety reasons, the number of space in between. So, the bottom line is, Marty, Sunday used to be sacred. You didn't do anything on Sunday except go to church. And if you didn't go to church, you didn't have any activities. It was just kind of a rule of thumb. Well, folks, we're well past that. Today, as we're recording, there are games going on in I don't want to say public school gyms, but up at Spooky Nook. There's 100 teams up there competing in some sport or multiple sports. Same thing with every other sports complex. The reality of it is, and it used to be, well, we'll schedule it Sunday after 12 noon. That's out the window as well. Those Spooky Nook games kicked off this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I guarantee you, because I've been up there at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning with my son. And so that's just the reality of it. So when you have a situation, and like I said, I don't know what Newark's field's going to look like. It's a grass field. Different for Howard. They were playing on turf. So the field's going to be fine. But there could have been safety issues. It was windy. You don't know what's flying around the state. The bottom line is, in this day and age, if something happens to somebody in a weather situation, there's going to be a lawsuit somewhere. And so why take that risk? Let the kids play on Sunday. And you know what? Somebody will say, well, somebody could have had plans on Sunday. But you know what? That's too bad. And, when you get into sport, as my wife and I say, our son Riley plays sports the whole year. When August 15th hits, we're committed to sports. And every decision we make about activities is, well, he might have a game or he might have practice. We don't take weekend-long trips during the school year. We can't. And that's the reality of it. And we're happy not to, because we want our son playing sports. Our other son plays in the band and hopes to play golf. So same situation. Band practices more than high school sports do. And so that's just the reality of what you get into. And yes, if you played on a Sunday, there might be a player who has to miss the game because their brother's getting married or something like that. And that's okay. It's high school sports. It's okay to miss a game. And don't tell me, well, it might be a star player. We've got 3 star players who aren't playing this season now because they got hurt. And what you don't want is you don't want to lose a star player in a situation of a weather situation, a bad field situation, or whatever. And thankfully, we haven't heard of anybody who did yesterday, but it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. And it can happen on a perfect night. Let's not pretend that couldn't be the case. My point is, let's give the schools some flexibility to be able to play on Sunday and not be criticized for it, because there would be criticisms for it. There would be. There would be parents, if we scheduled a game on Sunday, that's a church day, my kid's not playing. And you know what? That's okay.
That's okay.
But understand, the game's going to go on because the game is more important than the individual. And so that's just the reality of it. 30 years ago, it was different. When you and I were kids, it was different. There were no games on Sundays. There were no practices on Sundays. Let's fast forward to 2023 and make that change. Marty, your turn.
And I agree with everything you said, by the way. Mine is kind of the same way. It deals with criticisms, and it's kind of, I'll put it under the term of media bias. And this season, for the first time, I've gotten DMs from some folks asking why we don't cover this team more or that team more. A couple weeks ago, Mike Lang came under fire from some school officials for his coverage of their team, which I still am scratching my head over. Anybody who knows Mike Lang knows he covers everyone equally as
Yep.
well. The guy's working 7 days a week covering the sports, and it just drove me nuts that people were criticizing him for how he covered one team. But we've gotten it. I know. I'm sure Sean Green has gotten it at times. I'm sure I know Brad Myers gets it because I see it in the comments to some of his stories and his posts sometimes. But we're all doing the best we can with the information that we have, and that's what people need to understand. If you think your team's not being covered enough, first start with the team itself. First of all, how good are they? Because we are going to cover the top teams most likely. Second is make sure your coach is communicating with the media outlets and getting them information. There are times like today, and again, I'm not criticizing Isaiah Mays at all because my belief is he didn't see the email yet, which is totally believable. Because we wanted to talk about Brandywine today, but we just don't have the information to do it. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that the people who get upset about who we cover and why we cover them, the reasons could be myriad, but keep in mind, we're trying to cover as many teams as we can. Last week, our Green Gridiron top performer was Joshua Devonish from early college high school. And if you had told me before the season that ECHS would have one of our players of the week, I would have said you're probably crazy. We're covering everyone, from First State Military to the teams in the old Henlopen South, to Salesianum and Middletown, and we're trying to do the best we can. And I guess the message is just that make sure your coach is getting the information out there. If we find it and we're able to access it, or they can get it to us, we'll cover the teams. We cover, and you and I think people don't understand, and I'll put Sean Green and Brad Myers in this boat, and the 302 guys and the DSN guys as well. The stuff you don't see behind the scenes is how much research we put into this stuff during the week, the tape we watch of teams, going back and watching a YouTube game because we watched another game at that time. So there's a lot that goes into it. The bottom line is, and this is not whining at all, just we're trying the best we can to cover as many teams as we can, given the time constraints of a podcast. And we as much information as you can send us. And there's some coaches who sent me some information this week that we couldn't use because it just didn't fit into what we were doing this week. But we take everything, we read everything, we use it to determine our players of the week, and we appreciate everyone that participates. I'll say there are guys like Brendan Ireton of Tatnall, Avery McMullen at McCain, Gene Deladon at Salesianum. These guys, Dover has started. They're killing us with information, which we love.
Right.
Give us as much as you got, and we'll just go through it and find out what we need and what we can use. But to everyone who's sending us stuff, it's greatly appreciated. To everyone who's not, get on board. We want to hear the information. We want to hear about your best players. We want to hear about what happened during the game, and we'll do as best we can to cover it.
And again, to the parents, you can't control what the coaches do. We understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a shout out to, tell us, hey, you might want to check out this kid, because sometimes what happens, we have cell phones of a lot of coaches, and we have ways to get them, but we're not going to hound them for stuff, because that's not fair to them. We ask for it. We hope they get it to us, and some do and some don't. And some, that's just the reality of it.
That's a great point, by the way.
But if you're a parent or even just a fan and somebody had a great game, don't assume we're going to find out about it. Get it to us. And we don't need exact stats. Hey, this kid had 4 touchdowns in this game, and we'll take it from there. And it might just be, we may not get any exact information other than we know this kid got 4 touchdowns. And if it fits in, like Marty said, we can't always fit every stat we get and every kid we get. We try to do the best we can and as much as we can. But if it fits in, we'll mention it, that, hey, we heard from a parent, this kid had 4 touchdowns. That's great. And so, sometimes parents can help us do that, or players. If you're a player listening to this and you're not sure your coach gets us the information, it's not bragging. It's giving us the information we want.
100%.
We want to hear the bragging. We don't care if you're the parent and you're telling us about your kid. If it's good stuff, we want to hear it.
Yep.
Because that's how we get the information. That's how we get it out. We're doing this because we love to do it, and we love to give kids and coaches and teams as much publicity as they can. So
there you go.
So be the way that we get the information. Parents, fans, players. You can be part of that as well. All right.